Before the infinite scroll and on-demand streaming, media consumption was tied to a physical place. You sat in the dark room, staring at a heavy glass tube, waiting for network broadcast schedules to deliver exactly one episode of your favorite show. Today, there is a fierce debate happening across digital platforms about the characters that populated those screens. The question is whether the antagonists of 1990s network television hold up against the mega-budgeted, universe-spanning villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Most people dismiss the comparison out of hand. They assume a CGI titan, with the power to erase half of all life in the universe, is naturally more compelling than a scheming postal worker with a petty neighborhood vendetta. But that assumption misreads how storytelling works. The deepest psychological dread does not come from the threat of universal destruction. It comes from villains who look exactly like the people you interact with every single day. The most terrifying antagonists in pop culture endure because they trigger recognition and shame, not because they offer an abstract, brightly colored spectacle. Aristotle argued the best dramatic antagonists are like us, but worse. 1990s television writers adopted this philosophy, shrinking conflict to the human level. They created the domestic villain, not creatures from outer space. They were born in cramped apartments, public commutes, and corporate break rooms. No character embodies this better than George Costanza. Long before modern prestige television, Costanza pioneered the modern anti-hero by operating as a walking collection of recognizable human neurosis and deep social friction. He shamelessly lied his way through an engagement he never wanted, created a fake charity called the Human Fund to avoid buying Christmas gifts, and shoved elderly people out of the way to flee a small kitchen fire. We do not excuse his impulses, but we understand them entirely. Compare that to Thanos. Thanos destroys planets based on an abstract mathematical theory about resource scarcity. Because his logic is cosmological, the viewer watches him from a safe emotional distance. Modern blockbusters spend hundreds of millions of dollars rendering villains designed to make you gasp. The brilliance of 1990s television antagonists is they cost almost nothing and made you squirm. This psychological depth was largely an accident of the economic reality of 1990s television. Multicam sitcoms operated under incredibly strict financial ceilings. A writer could not rely on an expensive special effects sequence to generate tension or solve plots. Menace had to be conveyed entirely through human performance, tight dialogue, and the fixed layout of a living room set. Take Newman from Seinfeld. Actor Wayne Knight had to generate intense animosity using nothing but his posture, his vocal register, and his comic timing. The writers never even explained the origin of his rivalry with Jerry. It was simply calcified resentment, perfectly mirroring how real-world rivalries actually form. Marvel screenwriters operate under a completely different set of rules. In massive superhero origin stories, the villain is structurally required to act as a brief, disposable foil designed to push the hero's personal growth forward. This leads to the CGI problem. When an antagonist is rendered as a towering mountain of pixels, the technical requirements of the visual effects pipeline inevitably strip away the subtle micro-expressions required to build true human empathy. The tight financial constraints of network television forced creators to dig deep into character psychology. Modern studios, handed unlimited budgets, often end up replacing emotional weight with visual noise. We can track the cultural longevity of these two eras in digital spaces today. In 2026, social media saw a movement called the Great Meme Reset, a TikTok-driven trend where users actively rejected fast-paced algorithmic content in favor of older, nostalgic reference points. This chart shows the compounding viral engagement of a simple, highly expressive 2D face compared to a highly detailed, rendering-heavy CGI face. The 1990s characters dominate meme culture because their human-scale emotions are instantly legible. A screenshot of Mr. Burns pressing his fingertips together requires absolutely no context to understand. There is a crucial difference in cultural memory between an event and a person. Thanos snapping his fingers is an event we reference, but George Costanza's specific flavor of social anxiety is a personality trait users can actually adopt and inhabit online. Turning these domestic villains into modern memes operates as a collective coping mechanism. It is how audiences reclaim authentic, highly recognizable human connection in a digital landscape that often feels sterile. The way we watch stories has shifted drastically since the era of magnetic tapes and plastic cassette players, but the things that frighten us have stayed exactly the same. At the core of this debate is a choice between two anxieties: the abstract, distant fear of universal collapse, or the highly probable fear of workplace humiliation, petty jealousy, and social rejection. You are never going to have to defend your planet from an alien warlord wearing an infinity gauntlet. But you will inevitably sit across a desk from a Mr. Burns at a performance review or deal with a Newman in your own neighborhood. Those 1990s sitcom antagonists continue to outlast modern spectacle because they were never truly monsters to begin with. They were always just reflections of us.